Geiser.
This is Clint Simpson from Voices.
And you're listening to Antihero Online.
So the first thing that we're here to talk about, you guys released Resurgence a few days before Christmas of 2017. What was the band's mentality kind of going into the studio and working on this EP?
The EP actually was started recording almost a year ago. During the process, we actually scrapped a complete EP that we had written prior, and we're like, we can do better than this. The album that we had scrapped was okay. It was about the same as our first EP that we released, but we knew we could do better. So we started getting the process underway of recording, pushing ourselves both lyrically and musically. And then we had 3 members leave the band. So we had to replace 3 members of the band. Clint is our replacement for our original screamer. We had to replace our guitar player, we had to replace our drummer, and then we had to replace our screamer. So that kind of put things kind of in limbo for a hot minute there. We're like, okay, well, we got to put this on hold, try out new members, and then see if our musical style is going to change with these new members. And the process went actually pretty smoothly after we got everyone in, and turned out better than we thought it was going to.
And yeah. Clint, what do you think that you brought to the table with the addition to you to the band?
I feel like for me, I've been doing music for a really long time, so I was able to bring more of like a girly side of metal that I love to the band, with just my vocal style and things of that nature, because I'm usually pretty much like in the mid-range or in the lower spectrum of screaming vocals. So for me, I feel like it was just my pure vocal and then also the energy like with live shows and stuff like that.
And I'm sure the process to the songwriting and all of that was a bit of a challenge, especially with so many new members with a bunch of new ideas. How did the process go? And was it kind of just like you guys popped in, hung out, created some awesome music, and you were like, hey, this is going to fit really good?
That's kind of what the process was like. We had showed the guys what we had worked on. We had about 2 songs, the skeletons of songs in the works already, and we kind of showed them that was the direction that we kind of wanted to go, and everyone was on board. Of course, everyone threw their own little spin on what we had. Their own taste and influences went into making these new tracks, but everyone was really on board, and as soon as we started writing the album full on, it just seemed to click for everybody.
Yeah, and I think too, like all of us were pretty ready to, like, because we all have been kind of stagnant with music, and we were all just wanting to get back in there and really write some good stuff. So I feel like for all of us, that was kind of encouragement to write better than we ever have before. So I think we got the best product in that moment. So I think that too also like attributed to our EP and making it sound good.
I would say our producer really helped give us a solid direction too. He was very instrumental in helping us write part, helping us kind of zone in to ideas that weren't fully fleshed out, and he would help us really flesh those out by giving great ideas and direction, especially for me vocally. He pushed me outside of my comfort zone and made me try things that I normally wouldn't, as far as the clean singing goes, and I feel like it really shows in the album.
And with that push from the producer standpoint, the new fresh faces in the band, was it kind of like a rebirth or re-energize of the band?
Absolutely. That's where the album title came from. It was a resurgence for the band. It was a rebirth. We felt rejuvenated and revitalized as a group, while still having that familiar feel of Voices in the past. We have that same feel as well as a new feel and a new direction that the fans that like the old stuff can also grab onto, and as well as opening more doors for new fans to get into as well.
And the EP's been out for a couple of weeks now. What has the fans' reaction been to kind of like the new sound of the band, I guess we would call it?
Yeah, I feel like it's been a very, very positive reaction. I feel like people didn't really expect it, and I don't think people really had a lot of expectations because they were kind of like wondering how we would sound because of all the member changes. But I think for the most part, it's been very, very positive. And I mean, even from industry people that we've heard that have said something to us or that have personally messaged us have been like really loving the album, really digging it. It's like a nice, like, still sounds very similar, but it's also got some fresh takes on it. And that's what I think we love about it, because we really blended everything that we love about metal and metalcore into this record, and kind of like each of us got to put like a piece of what we like with metal and what makes us love metal and why we like are in a band that does nothing but metal. So I think that correlates to the record, and I think you can really hear like all those different influences come out in each of the songs and things of that nature. So
I've heard from, you know, both people that haven't heard us before who are just blown away by the album. And I've also heard from people who have followed the band religiously since we first started, and all of the feedback has been immensely positive. They're really excited that we're back. They love the tracks on the album, and a lot of people are really excited for the direction that the band is heading. And I think it's a good mix. Like I said before, it's a very good mix of both the old stuff and the new stuff. And I think the fans really are gravitating towards it.
The metalcore genre as a whole, it's kind of starting to get bombarded with bands that are kind of trying to cut through and break into the scene. What do you think that it is about your band that separates you from the rest of the guys that are trying to break in?
I think we have a really interesting take on clean vocals. I don't think we sound like very cookie cutter at all. I think my range definitely gives us a unique feel. It's not in the super high range. It's not in the super low range. It's about nice, clean, mid-range singing, and I think that puts us apart from a lot of the band. And I think our lyrical work is very, very complex, but easy to understand as well. And then the aggression of the guitars, as well as the intricacy of the guitars as well, really helps make us stand apart, in my opinion.
And I think too, like even from like a business and logistical standpoint, just how professional we're being with this band and putting ourselves out there in the right way and making sure that like we don't like we're posting like professional things on social media and we're not just posting memes and things of that nature, kind of also separate us a little bit too from the crowd, because we're trying to take this seriously. Like we love, like all of us in this band, all six of us love music, and this is what we want to do for the rest of our lives. So I feel like with that, like we want to present ourselves in such a way, and that's why I think a lot of the younger bands kind of have a hard time, is they're still like in that young phase, so they want to, you know, do all the partying and stuff like that, but we're just like, hey, we just want to play music and we just want to do it in front of people. So for me, that's just what I think separates us the most from everybody else.
I mean, that's an awesome mentality to have, though. You guys are kind of treating it like a business instead of treating it as like a good time.
I think there has to be a happy medium between business and fun if bands really want to succeed. You know, if you have too much fun, then it can come across wrong to some people. But if you're too much business, then, you know, why are you doing it in the first place?
Yeah.
It's supposed to be a good mix of both. You're supposed to have fun while you're up there, but at the same time, you definitely have to have a good business sense when it comes to promoting your band and pushing your band.
It's like a little gray area that you have to operate in.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Oh, for sure.
Yeah, I had to throw the Spider-Man quote in there. So the band's first single off of the EP was Demons, and this kind of goes back to the lyrical content of the band's music. I listened to it, and then I looked at the lyric video and kind of read into the lyrics. There's a deeper meaning behind that song. Can you kind of touch on the deeper meaning behind the lyrics of that song?
Absolutely. So we started with the chorus on that song, and basically the chorus is saying, you know, don't keep pushing on this glass, you'll see the demon inside of me. So what that metaphor is, like, you know, you have all these expectations that you're supposed to live up to, and, you know, it's just like ever mounting pressure on your shoulders, and people just want more and more and more out of you. And then finally, you know, if you don't have a creative outlet or a positive way to release that, you'll explode. The album itself, it kind of tells a story of that kind of arc, and dealing with pressures and then losing people, and then, you know, ultimately thinking about suicide when it comes to the end of the album. But Demons itself was basically saying, hey, you know, like, you're only human. There's only so much you can offer. Don't forget about that, and don't lose your humanity in the process.
And I think that's an important message to hint on nowadays, especially when, you know, a lot of people will kind of look at it like they're alone, and a lot of people will gravitate towards music at the same time to kind of make them feel something. And I think that's really important that you guys are delivering that type of message, especially touching on the end part when you mentioned suicide, and with that being so predominant in our society now. Was that something that you guys kind of thought about when you were going through and kind of creating the story?
So when we kind of created this, I know for myself, when I would write my vocal parts, I was honestly taking from real life instances. And after we finished recording the album, we started listening to them. Like, these songs tell a story. You know, if you put them in this order, you can definitely tell the highs, the lows, and then the ultimate low, which would be the final track on the album, is, you know, literally considering suicide. But before the song's over, you're realizing, hey, you know, suicide's not the answer. These are things that I have contemplated myself. You know, being very low, having very much low times, and then very high exciting times at the same time. So it ended up working out that way on accident, kind of.
Well, and I think too, like, us kind of writing it from our own perspective and not really like having this like, oh, we want to make it a big picture thing. I think that's what it ended up turning into, because everyone goes through this. You know, everyone has times in their lives when they feel like, you know, ending it is the best option. But in reality, it's really not. And if you actually sit down and you think about it, and then you start to kind of realize everyone that you affect and everything that can happen from you just like getting rid of yourself from the equation, I think that's the way the record goes. It kind of goes through that emotional roller coaster that you go through in your life, and there's ups and downs, like Blaine was saying, and just getting through that on your own. And then I think like you become a better and stronger person after that fact, when you're able to go through those times, and then you're able to make it out on the other side, and then you realize, okay, you know, I'm here, and I'm ready to like conquer whatever is next. And I feel like that's what we went in with writing this record, is kind of, because that's where we're all with our lives. We're kind of all there in that moment. We're all feeling very similar, and that's why we were able to write this record the way that we did.
When it came to kind of leaving your personality vulnerable in that type of situation and exposing yourselves, was there any kind of inkling in your mind that this might not be the best thing to do? You know, putting yourselves out on the lines like that.
For me, I keep going to the last song, but the last song was the hardest for me to write personally, because I really touched some dark places during the song. Talked about a lot of things that most people didn't know about myself. The thoughts of, you know, just wanting to end it, and then putting the spin with the choruses. The choruses bring myself back to life. You know, it was really hard for me to get into the state where it would be okay to talk about it, because, you know, a lot of times people don't want to talk about that side because they feel like they're being a burden, or, you know, just nobody cares. But I think one of the things that I really had to think about when writing that song is everyone does go through these things in some point or another. So if I can talk about it here, and I can say, hey, I'm still here because of this, maybe that can positively influence someone who listens, like a younger kid who can listen to this and be like, oh shit, life's not dumb. I don't need to go away. People want me here. It was very hard to get in that spot for me, but I think the record really benefits from us touching those subjects and in a positive way.
I think too, as being like a musician, like you know, you kind of sign yourself up for that when you write records and you make stuff, you know, especially in the genre that we're in, because a lot of bands like us, you know, they write from that standpoint of their own life and what they go through and whether it's good or bad. And so for us, like what Blaine was saying, like I feel like it's a conversation topic that needs to be touched because it could help somebody else. And that's what makes me do music at the end of the day, is me using the outlet that helps me to help other people. And that's why I love music personally, and that's the reason why, you know, I chose this genre, and I chose to write this, because I feel like this genre is one of the genres that represent, you know, being okay with being messed up and being okay with being sad and lonely, but figuring out a way to kind of come together as a community and to fix it. And, you know, like back in the day when I was younger, we'd go to shows and we'd all hang out together and listen to these rad bands. And that's like what I remember from music, and that's what got me into it, and that's what I love, just the community aspect. And sometimes you got to leave yourself vulnerable to create that. So, yeah.
I mean, you know, when it comes to everybody, at some point, music has saved our lives in some point or fashion. So, kind of moving off of the sad and sobby side of the thing, and let's change the aspect of the interview. You guys actually have a EP release show coming up on January 13th. What made you guys want to kind of do the show, and what about the other bands on the set kind of attracted you to bringing them on with the show?
We knew we wanted to do an EP release show because we didn't for our last one. And this album meant so much to everyone. We really wanted to kind of celebrate it and bring some of our favorite bands out with us, some really cool dudes who could share in the experience with us. But at the end of the day, we just thought it'd be a great way to show our appreciation to the fans and people who have stuck through us, even through the little bit of a hiatus we had while finding new members. And just kind of say, hey, this record's for you guys, and we wanted to have a party for you guys. So we brought, you know, some of the greatest, some of the best bands from indie that we could find. You know, we have From Cities Above, who are great friends of ours. We have In Vain, which are a newer band, but they're a great band. We've got Travelers, who are also a newer band, but they rip as well. And then we've got a band traveling from Indiana, but they're up north. And I think they're up north. I could be wrong. Don't quote me on that. But we've got the Wise Man's Fear, who we've always really enjoyed their stuff. So we reached out to them to see if they were interested in playing, and they said yes. So it's kind of like a perfect storm kind of came together so we could make a great show for the fans.
Yeah, and what I love about the opening acts is it's more about too, like, putting like the newer bands up there too, and not just like old seasoned bands that have been in the scene for a while. Because I feel like, you know, trying to create more opportunity for those newer bands to kind of have more showtime and be able to like be in front of more people, I think is a really cool thing. And that's why I particularly like this lineup, because it is a blend of friends, and then it is a blend of new faces that we really haven't like got to play with before. So kind of being able to mix the two together, I think, is a really good opportunity.
And what are you guys looking forward to the most about this show? There's a lot of new faces in the band. Is it gonna kind of like see how the onstage chemistry is, or are you guys just gonna put that in the back of the mind and just, you know, play the show and enjoy it the way that it is?
I think we've already played a couple shows as this lineup, and they've went really well. I think for me, it's mostly just getting up there to celebrate the album release with the people that have stuck by us at the very beginning. Everyone that I've talked to has been super supportive of the lineup changes and are really excited for the future of the band. So what better way to do it than to have ourselves a little party in the form of a show?
Yeah, and like Blaine said, like we played shows prior to this EP release show, but what I think is cool is that we're getting to celebrate the album, like Blaine said, but like with the songs that we've been already playing, but people are now going to know what these songs are, and they're going to have access to them. They're going to be able to sing along with us. That's what I'm excited for, is to see the crowd reaction now that they've heard these songs and they're able to get actually down with it. Because before we were playing these shows and people were hearing new stuff, but they were like kind of like, well, I've never heard this before, so I'm just trying to take it all in. Now they can actually like enjoy it with us and like get down with us like they've never done before. So.
And what's the plan for 2018 through the rest of the year? Are you guys going to noodle around with some new music, even knowing that the EP just came out? Are you going to focus on touring? What's going on?
Right now, we've already started talking about writing another record. Where we've got a couple ideas that we're going to start fiddling around with. But I think the main focus is just getting ourselves out there a little bit more. Definitely getting outside of Indianapolis. It's kind of hard being an independent band and getting your way into other states because a lot of people don't know who you are, or they don't know what your work ethic is. So that's definitely the goal. Doing some mini tours, like little weekend tours, hitting the surrounding areas around us, and just really pushing our product out there. But at the same time, we're definitely going to start really hammering in some new songs and work on a couple music videos as well.
I ran into one issue when I was looking for you guys. I couldn't find you on social media. There's a lot of bands name Voices on social media. So people can find your music on Spotify, Apple Music, Google Play, and Amazon. Where can they find you on the social medias, and how do they find you on the social media? Okay,
so the best way to find us is to type in our links directly. On Twitter, we are twitter.com/voices_band. On Facebook, we are facebook.com/voicesindie, INDY. And then on Instagram, we are also Voices Indie, VOICESINDY.
And I'm sure there's links to, the Instagram from the Facebook and the Twitter from the Facebook. So if they can find one, they can find you on all the platforms.
Absolutely. And links to all of the album streams are on our social media as well. So once they find us, the links are there, and there shouldn't be a problem from there.